Another way of getting around the timeline when you need to move left and right is to grab the scroll bar on the bottom and move it left and right. Or you can just move your cursor to right where the ruler is, where it's having this timecode readout, and you see the arrow turns into a little hand, and if you click and drag, you can just move the timeline around that way. The next thing that's handy to know is how you quickly go through the footage you have on your timeline, and you can do that with a time selection. So what I'm going to do here is just click where there's no media. I'm going to click basically below the bottom track here, and as I click and drag, I'm creating that blue section, and that's a time selection. But also notice that in the preview, I'm just real quickly scrubbing through the video on that timeline event. That's a real quick way to go through your footage. If you want to play in real time, place your cursor where you want to start, and you can click just about anywhere on the timeline, above the ruler, below the last track, even on the media itself, although you'll be selecting it at the same time. Then hit the space bar, and now it's just going to play through from that point. And if you want it to stop playing, you can hit the space bar again. But look what happens. The cursor returns to its original position, which is actually pretty handy in most of editing. If you want it to stop where it's at the moment, you hit the Enter key instead. So I'm going to hit the space bar and hit the Enter key, and now it's stopped right where it was. So two different functions there, space bar and space bar again to return to your original point, or space bar and Enter to stop. Also, you can use the Enter key to start the playback as well. Another way you can do playback is to use the little transport buttons on the bottom here. And these work pretty much like a VCR buttons. You remember VCRs, don't you? The play button plays, pause button pauses. Just that simple. You have two other buttons here that will go to the very start of the project, and another one that goes right to the end of the project. One really cool feature of Vegas is that you don't actually have to stop the playback to jump to a different point. So I'm going to place the cursor at this point here and hit the space bar. It's playing through this wedding, and if I click above the ruler here, it's just going to jump right to that spot. Playback does not have to be interrupted. So you can jump anywhere in the timeline very quickly. So now that these events are in the timeline, how do we manipulate them, move them around, change them? Well, one thing is that you can click and drag, and that's how you could move things around. You can even move them vertically, and in this case it's going to create a new track. So let me undo that, and undo is Control Z. So you don't have to be afraid to experiment, because Control Z or undo will back you up the last 99 things you did. So don't worry about doing something wrong. You can always undo your way out of it. So what I want to do at this point is to create a crossfade between these two events on the timeline. And that's extremely simple in Vegas. You just need to grab one event and slide it on into another one. And you can see where that overlap happens. It's creating that cross indication and also telling us exactly how long that overlap is. Right now it's reading 4 seconds and 28 frames. As I move this event further in, you can see that it's reading an even larger overlap. So let's keep it to 123 right now. I'm going to zoom in so we can get a better view here. And I'm going to play, and you can see one will crossfade into the other.